All right. All right, guys, we are live.
Oh, I know
How
what
are
I
y'all?
can do. I have to go to Facebook and allow it now. I learned my lesson because it locks it until I go unlock it.
Yes. So I told you guys. So we're live right now. Hey guys, happy Friday night. I told y'all.
Amy said that she's on right
Oh,
now.
she is. Yeah, there she is. I'll let her in. Anyway, so hey Amy. So we're
Hey.
live. We are live. And remember, I was telling you I was trying to go live on the on Twitter. It says that I need. Oh gosh, knows it. So we're trying to figure our stuff out, Amy.
How to do it? We do it on the fly.
It said I needed a premium account to go live on Twitter. I'm like, of course I do.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Buggers.
So
Hey, Amy, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
yeah, happy
It's
Friday
been
night,
a
Amy.
minute.
It's been a minute.
Did you watch? Are you ready for the premiere of episode 3? Right,
Yeah.
starting in 1 hour, right?
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Is
excited.
there anybody in the chat yet?
I'm trying to turn the chat on. Let's see. Here we go.
I don't see anything yet.
There's a few people. So
All
happy
right, so we're
Friday night,
getting Steve
everyone.
coming on.
Yep. Got Sorry, trying to get stuff. Yeah, there's 3 people on.
Well, we're killing it now.
Those
Yeah,
3
we are.
people, you 3 people, you guys are rock stars.
So everyone had a good week?
Yeah.
It's been a productive week.
How's it?
About average week for me.
That's because you're always killing it, Austin.
It's
I'm
been a
always
pretty
busy, that's for
busy
sure.
week.
um
Did my grandkids and then cleaning and getting ready to do my next contract in West Virginia, and
Ooh, damn.
So
yeah.
you're going to be traveling again?
Yep. I leave Sunday morning.
Are you looking forward to that?
I will be and was it Buchanan, which is 20 minutes away from Trans-Allegheny.
Oh,
Ooh,
Yeah, I know,
very,
right?
very.
I can see you being excited about that.
Yeah. Yep.
I would be. Shoot. That is that's one place I've always wanted to go, but I just never got the chance to be able to.
Me
I've been
either.
there once. It's a pretty cool place.
I
Well,
can't even.
if they're listening, if they watch, invite us out. We will come. Invite us out. We will come.
Yes.
And we'll bring more shit than you've ever seen in your life to your job site.
Yeah. As
Just
a
don't
matter of
charge us.
fact, I going trying to think when it is exactly. Sometime next year, I'm going with the boys, the Wrath Chasers, over to. They
Ireland?
got an event over there at Trans-Allegheny, so I think it's in March, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
they do have one coming up there in March.
Yep.
no, I'm jealous.
Well, so Amy, we're going to get to you here in just a few minutes. I do want to do a little bit of a recap up to where we're at for those that are following the series. And if you're not following the series, you need to get caught up. So, because
Yeah, why the hell aren't you?
3 airs. So you're already behind. But let's do a little recap over the last 2 episodes. The first episode was mainly getting everything set up for our experiments and explaining to our participants what was going to happen. A lot of gearing up happened in episode 1. And hopefully the viewer was able to understand that we were going to be using frequencies to aid our participants in having an experience. I call it an experience. Whether they travel or they see something, whatever it happens to be, remote viewing, they're going to have an experience. That's my main goal. Now, I don't know. I do a lot of math leading into this with the frequencies, and sometimes I can see who might travel, who might not travel, what kind of experience they might have as far as remote viewing or whatever. And then there's others like Amy who have traveled before. So with them, I'm like, okay, this shouldn't be too difficult with those guys because they've already done it before. But when I'm dealing with participants that may have never done anything like this, I'm really relying on the frequencies to help get them to that point where the frequencies unlock the hemisync. It's going to synchronize both sides of the brain. But what I don't really talk about in the episode is also the chakras and what we're doing with the frequencies that they've been doing for thousands of years. We did this in episode 1, episode 2, and all these episodes, these frequencies are being played either in their headphones or in the ambient atmosphere as a catalyst for the ambient environment. So episode 1 kind of sets us up for that. Episode 2, we're now getting into at least experiment 1. Mike had a little bit of an issue. He was in the center of the Seba for the WorldGate itself. And when all that hit him, okay, that affected him somehow physically. A little more than I thought it was going to. But also Chris, hopefully I'm not getting this out of order, but Chris was feeling something with.
Well, in episode 2,
am I maybe getting a little
yeah,
forward?
you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself.
Right.
Because,
so y'all need to watch episode 3 tonight. I'm not going to say anything more about Chris.
Yeah,
right now. Y'all need to watch episode 3. But anyway, each one of these participants, they experience something in some way, fashion, or form. So each one of these episodes is building, guys. Episode 1 gets us set up. Episode 2, you see the first experiment. Now, I had planned on making 6 experiments. We only got 4. But hey, that's what happens when you hit the field. We're taking this shit out of the lab, out to a haunted location, and we're dealing with the weather. We're dealing with everything. And what we come away with is all we got. So the puppy agrees that sometimes shit hits the fan and you don't get everything done that you wanted to do. But Amy, you're one of my participants that you had traveled before. Mm-hmm. So I want you to take a moment, introduce yourself, and then tell us, kind of going into this, what you were thinking, and then bring us up to where we're at. You've watched episode 1 and episode 2. So I'm going to let you go for a minute.
Okay. Well, my name is Amy Schaefer, and I came into the field kind of late, I guess, than a lot of other people. I've always had like experiences and stuff, but really got into the paranormal field about actually almost 5 years ago. And I did not realize that I traveled. I would always have some really weird experiences that could not be explained. Things that I saw that later I was like, how did I know that? Or how did I see that? Like later on, I thought, was I dreaming it? And then I would be traveling to like friends' house or people's house, and they're like, "I saw you in my dream," or and I'm sitting here like freaking out, like, how is that even possible? I was dreaming it, and here I was getting with a friend, and she's like, "Girl, you're traveling," and so when I try and really do it, like when I just focus too hard. If I don't focus on it and I just go to sleep, I have more control, I think, that way than actually sitting down and trying to do it. Um, so
That
going
is
into this, it was kind of like a little scary because this was a controlled environment and I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to do it in this controlled environment. Um, I think I did some, but not in the same way like I have done so, like I would say in my dream state, unconscious state. Um, I saw things that I was not expecting to see. Experiences I was kind of odd, and but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and now I'm watching. I saw episode 1, episode 2, and knowing what's going to happen coming up, and I'm not going to discuss that. I have actually more questions, I guess, and more thoughts and more insight to it because of course I didn't see any of the exit interviews, so listening to what's going to be coming up just made me realize other things.
Now,
Mhm.
let me say for the public, I have protocols in place when I do this, and it's not just because I'm an asshole and I want to control people. Well, maybe a little. I, from a scientific standpoint, in order to have an experiment, you have to have some kind of controls. Now, we cannot control a paranormal environment. Give it up if you think you're going to control that. But what we can control is the parameters of how we're going to conduct our experiments. Now, if all hell breaks loose in the middle of it, which is what happened with Mike, we still managed to get Mike back into his cot before the other participants came back and realized that
Mhm.
he got up. So it wasn't going to affect their thoughts and feelings when they woke up or came back or returned or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. When they rose up from their cots, they see Mike in the middle. They had no idea. And I
Mhm.
will say, like Amy said, they have not seen the other exit interviews other than the production crew, me, Billy, and whoever the head PA might have been at the time. They didn't see these exit interviews while we were there or later. Now, we did have our first roundtable in episode 2, and you could see why I hold those.
so 3.
Okay. In
Yeah.
episode 3, you're going to see our first roundtable and you're going to understand why those protocols are put in place. Because, like Amy just said, they don't get to see the other interviews from the participants. Not until we do a roundtable do they get to start discussing and putting these puzzle pieces together as a group. Because
Mhm.
even though they're in the SEBA, and there's 6 of them in there, and they're together in some way, fashion, or form during the experiment. After that experiment, and they're back in this physical world, they are kept separated until after all the data has been collected, and then they get together and they can jack their jaws and they can talk. But until then, ask any of them; they'll tell you, you that you just don't talk about it until we've got everything down. And I think that that's very important as this series goes along. You're going to see why that was so important, so that we can give more credence to these puzzle pieces when they start to come together. We can give credence to them because we know we had held to the protocols, and nobody should have been affecting another people, the other person's experience. So, all right.
So what I was going to say, the one thing that I have noticed in episode 2 that got me thinking was what had happened with Mike, with him being in that center, how, and especially with what happened at the time it happened, how was that affecting the others?
Yes.
And
I wouldn't let you tell me about what you were seeing. I told you, no, don't tell me right now. I don't want to know. Let's finish this and then you tell me. I don't know if I was right or I was wrong when I told you that, Amy. And I wasn't being mean when I told you.
No, I knew you were, but I was like freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, because you know what you experienced in with the monitors.
Yes. And I was trying to hold to the experiment. The paranormal side of me was like, I really want to know what she's talking about. I really freaking want to hear what she's talking about. But as the curator of the experiments, I knew that it was best that I let my, whatever it is, no matter what my desires are, hold to where I'm at. So when y'all were talking out front, when I didn't see that till episode 1. I'd never seen that footage. I wasn't out there when all that was recorded. So I was watching that fresh right along with everybody else because I didn't know.
I'm out. Are you waiting for me?
I thought I heard a woman's voice somewhere in the background talking.
Yeah, Colleen's watching a show.
Oh.
Hey, babe.
Oh,
Can you turn it down just a little bit?
I think me and Jay froze up a little bit too. So one thing, speaking about being in the middle, and this will be talked about more as we move forward too, and this isn't really, it's giving a little bit away, but not much, because we need some talking points. But you know, Mike's in obviously first experiment, it's in the middle. Amy, you're in the second experiment, you're in the middle. I'm just starting to, on the edit, I'm just starting to dive into the third experiment, and I haven't even touched the fourth one yet, the hyper realm experiment. But, you know, as we move forward, there's a lot of things that in real time and over the course of being there for the few days that we did the project and the series, you don't really put 2 and 2 together and they don't match up. But then after the fact, there's a lot of things that are starting to match up. One thing that I've noticed just in those first 2 is, and we'll kind of fast forward to episode 3 where, no, that's episode 4. Amy, I'm sorry. I'm
See, this is what happens.
Yeah.
So we get confused.
Anyway, so long story short, Amy talks about her experience of being in the middle. She gives a great interview, talks about what happened, and then on the round table, this is episode 4. I'm jumping ahead two episodes now. She talks about she doesn't even remember giving her exit interview, and doesn't even remember talking about anything, which I thought was bizarre. And then Mike
said that in episode 2.
Episode 2. Well, she hadn't even done the experiment yet, so she hadn't.
No.
Oh, shit, see, I'm jumping forward.
Yeah, this was as you brought that up.
Yeah,
I remember being down there, but I don't remember. It's just so bizarre. Like,
all right,
well,
sorry. Yeah.
Well, so the correlation is what I'm talking about is Mike doesn't really remember his first experiment, what happened either in his exit interview. He doesn't remember where he went, what happened. And I don't know. I don't think that, because Mike actually, again, fast forwarding and through an experiment 3, Mike goes back to the middle, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
What you just said, Billy, let's think about this for a second. Mike and Chris, they're out of town right now. Hard for me I love these guys to death. Hard for me to get a hold of them. They sent me a video this afternoon. I shared it on Facebook. And Mike was saying exactly what you were saying. His memory is now like lost on that. and she experienced the same thing. Now, when they did the exit interview, they remembered during the exit interview, and they did.
Well, Mike didn't
some of it.
Mike remembered a little bit of it, but not all of it.
Not all
in
of
the
it.
first experiment, so it was kind of.
But afterwards, they lose it. Whereas you're absolutely right, Billy. The ones that are in that sixth seat, kind of the hot seat, that is the center of the Seba. That is the gate. That right there is the gate.
Yeah.
And the people that were in the gate seem to have the hardest time remembering the experience as time goes along, whereas the other participants that were in seat 1, 3, 4, or 5, they remember, even today, months later, they remember theirs very clearly. But the ones that were in that sixth seat, they seem to lose it pretty quickly. So that makes me wonder how much of it was their experience and how much of it might have been a shared experience somehow with the consciousness of the other 5 participants, in which case it would stand to reason that as hours and weeks and months goes by, if it wasn't your consciousness that was, it would be harder to retain it. Does that make sense? Because it wasn't necessarily yours to keep. It was the collective of all 6. So it didn't belong to you, so you don't get to keep it months later. If that makes sense. I'm trying to make sense of this.
We'll have to see how the last two, well, do you call the hyperrealm an experiment too? Is that considered an experiment for?
Yes.
Okay.
It's either the peregrine or the hyperrealm. The peregrine is, I let them travel wherever they want to go, untethered, whatever. The hyperrealm is a shorter experiment, and it's more geared towards experimenting and investigating just on the other side of the veil of the location we happen to be in. This time we were at the Granary. Next time we're going to be at the Broadwell Funeral Home. I've got a couple of experiments, hyperrealms, planned for the Broadwell Funeral Home, and it's meant to keep you in that the nearest local realms, and that's what that final 4th experiment's going to be. And that one was, I don't want to give too much away, but that one was completely different from the first 3, but it's supposed to be. And the experiences should be completely different than the first 3. Or the peregrine, let's say that. The hyperrealm and the peregrine are 2 different experiments.
I do want to throw out there too, like something that I think is really important for the viewers to understand, like when they're watching this, you're going to find that there are a lot of really weird correlations or coincidences, connections that, go back a couple of years even. And I think that this was, it's really odd the universe operates the way that it wants to operate. And it seemed like there were a lot of signs throughout this whole process. Obviously we had talked about it in the past about the various coincidences, but I think that it's important for the viewer to really look out for those and really start paying attention to those things as these episodes start coming up, because the more that you understand how many of these shared connections or experiences or just weird coincidence, I don't even want to use that word, but just these
for it. We've tried to figure out another word for it. They're just
right. But it was very clear, at least clear to me, and I believe to you as well, JW, that there was something was intent. There was some intent with regards to, I don't know exactly what the intent was, but the overall goal seemed to be that we were supposed to do that at that site, at those dates, with all the people that came together like that. Everything that everybody went through seemed to happen, was supposed to happen. kind of thing. And
Yeah,
there
I
were
had a
too many
premonition about it.
signs. Right. There were too many signs that, like, too many things that just correlated, coincided. And like, I think if the viewer can understand that as they're watching it, you'll realize like why all of this, it just gets more and more like crazy. And as you like really start to dive into the idea, like, because now we're messing with a whole nother side of the universe that we typically don't mess with. And for some reason, honestly, I think that there were two sides. There were opposing forces, that one was pushing us to do it, the other was kind of like preventing us from doing it. Because as you know, JW, I mean, all of the issues that all the hurdles that you had to jump through, that we had to jump through to make all of that happen. And so I think that there's a lot more at play than just us. You know what I mean? And I think it's important, very important for the viewer to know that.
And I want the viewer to remember, because I know I've said this before, a lot of us were strangers in the sense that we had never been together, all together in that place. Some of us knew each other from either Facebook or maybe
I knew everybody.
met in person, but this is how my experiments a lot of times go, is these people come from all walks of life and we're all brought together, and there's no rhyme or reason how we exactly got there. I mean, I have math that helps me to understand why we all ended up there, but I don't know what's going to happen until the end of it. So when you get all these correlations that happen over a 5 or 6 day period, and some of them, like Austin said, go back a couple of years, it really does open your eyes to how connected all of this actually is. Amy, if you'd like to chime in there on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of them that I knew prior to going in there. Some Facebook, like I've met Mike and Chris before, so I already knew them. Of course, you know, Jay, I knew you guys. But like now with the rest of them, like especially with Steven and Kayla, like I just adore them. I've actually, when Chris and Mike were up in Sheboygan, I went up there and got to see them and hung out with them for a little bit. And I can't wait to do it again.
That's awesome.
And I think I've ran into Beth before. I talked to Melissa. It's just, I can't wait to investigate with all of them again. They're just fabulous people. And I felt a connection with every single one of them. And I agree with you, Jay, like we were all like in a way meant to be there. The way we just all clicked. It was great.
Can I make one correction? Let's not give Steve that much credit, okay?
I think I'm the only one that like knew everybody.
Definitely a character.
I think I'm the only one.
He definitely made things very interesting.
Way too interesting.
As you'll see in episode 4, Steve, aka Scott.
Yes.
courtesy of
Brennan, right?
Yeah,
That was Brennan, right?
Oh my gosh.
That was Brennan, yeah.
Brennan, the most straight-laced, straight to the point, no kidding around. Cousin Scott.
Well, he had called him Scott like 3 or 4 times up to that point, I think. And so, like, I don't know if anybody corrected him yet.
No, he caught it on his own finally.
Yeah. It was just funny.
Oh, man, it was a great week. I mean, it was a great week. And I hope our viewers are getting as much out of this as what we feel is in there. And it's really hard. And Billy is amazing. Billy is absolutely awesome. But it is really hard for even somebody like Billy to bring this across to the viewer, what actually happened that week. because we're still digesting it, and we were there for all those days. We're still trying to digest it to this day, and I'm still going through all the data to this day. So I hope the viewer gets as much out of this in a sense of wonder and a sense of what is possible as we did going into this, and we know now coming out of it what is possible, and we can't wait to do it again, and we're going to do it again. It changes you. It changes your outlook on things and what is possible.
Speaking of which, if anybody wants to sign up for the May experiment, May 13th through the 18th at the Haunted Broadwell Funeral Home, go to idc-institute.net. IDC. Yeah. So you can do that. We have information on it. You can look into the.
Yep.
Where's the Broadwell?
I'm sorry, Jay. You said a whole bunch of stuff. Well, what did you say, Billy?
Where is the Broadwell funeral home at?
It's in Felicity, Ohio. So it's actually about an hour east of Cincinnati, but it's literally right across the Ohio River from like, God, I don't even know the town right across the Ohio. I know Maysville, Kentucky is right there. It's right down there by number, yeah. But it's going to be a really cool experiment. We're going to actually be on site all 5 days. 6 days, right?
We're going to be there for 7 days. The experiments will go at least 5 of those days.
Yeah. So just if anybody's interested.
Yeah, and I'm going to be there in July, I think, right? Yeah, to check the place out a little bit and just kind of get a feel for it.
Wait, July?
Right?
That'll be after the fact.
Is it in
That'll
July?
be after.
No, we're going to
I would have to check the calendar. I think January, maybe. I think it's right. I think it's after the New Year is when you're going, Amy. But
do y'all have the dates set yet? What are the dates?
I have to look.
Oh, May. for the May for the experiment, May 13th through 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe April, May. Or was it?
I know you booked it before May because I know you did. I know that it's before May.
Yeah, so it had to be January, February, March time frame, not July.
I'm pretty confident it's like right after the New Year. But I'll double check afterwards.
Yeah, we'll have to look because I have to, I guess, figure out what we might have to change it. I don't know. I'll get with you.
Yep.
Yes.
But yeah.
He's wanting to join us in May at Broadwell. We do have a couple of openings left for participants for our next run of experiments. And we will be on site about 7 days. The participants will be there anywhere from 1 day to 6 days. But the experiments are going to run over 5 days. It takes a long time to do this. So if anybody's interested in these experiments, after watching this series, you got your chance in May.
Yeah.
I think after watching this series, they may just want to.
I encourage anyone interested in it because I'm putting this thing together and I still don't understand everything.
Well, that's why we do these experiments, right?
I don't either.
We don't understand, and the more understanding that I get, the more questions I get, and I love the shit of that. I absolutely thrive on this, and I have more questions that, and so the experiments are going to be a little different on the next one, but watch. As y'all go along watching these episodes on this series, you're going to see why we're so excited about doing this again in May. As you follow along with this series, you're going to get a better idea as you keep watching this of what we were doing and what transpired and what's possible.
Yeah.
Well, I will also throw out there too that our system has improved since this experiment.
We've
So,
added some more equipment. Yes, we've added some more equipment, which we
so
always
improved. Improved.
That's
In my
always the
opinion,
goal.
that's improved.
That's always the goal of anybody trying to better themselves in whatever field they're in, right? You know, I mean, when I first started doing video production and stuff, my cameras weren't very good. My microphones weren't very good, and obviously, in life, anything is to grow and improve. And I think you guys, I mean, God, you have so much equipment and stuff. Yeah, I mean, but you know it way better than me, so you can definitely take and look and improve and grow. I thought it was great what you had, you know, from my perspective, and I thought it got the job done for what
We need environmental data. That was the thing.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be adding next is more environmental.
How so? Explain that. How exactly do you even capture that?
In episode, which episode was it? I don't want to give anything away. We did have our laser grids set up.
Yeah.
It's a little complicated as we're talking about this, but we had some stuff go on with the lasers.
Yeah.
So we've made some now. The fact that we did have things go on with them was pretty cool. So we've made some adjustments there because we don't want to pull our participants out of where they're at from their focus. So we've made a few adjustments there, but we started looking at having this environmental array of satellites. And you know me, I love my satellites because that's how the entire intercom system works, is off these satellites. Well, we're going to have 8 environmental sensors that are feeding data back to us on a monitor. So we're going to be able to monitor the environment at the same time that we're monitoring the EEGs of the participants. What?
Live,
yes, in real time. We're going to be able to monitor all of this, record it, and watch it in real time. Live environmental sensors coming back. So this is why this work is so important. As you watch this series, everything we're doing, we're learning more and more. And we learned a lot on this 1 week. We learned a lot, and I think that people will appreciate it once they finish the end of this series. They're going to be able to appreciate, you know, where we're at right now, where the Institute's at right now, and where the Institute's going, and why this work is so important because of what they're going to discover that we learned in this 1 week. They're going to want to take that next adventure with us as well.
Hopefully.
Or at least I hope so.
So with that being said, so we put a little teaser out. I don't know if everybody watches. This is just for episode 3. And we'll play this and we'll touch on episode 3, which is about to release in about 20 minutes. But so we'll play this teaser and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about it.
It's kind of scary because it's almost like a lost time phenomenon.
And the fact that he was in the center of the speakers, that's where supposedly the WorldGate is supposed to open.
Feel my face, dude. Seriously, I mean, like my cheek. You look like you're red again, bro. You are totally freaking red again, bro.
Dude, my face is...
Yeah, you're all flushed. Your face is looking just like it was when you came out, dude. I hear I'm gonna.
Yep.
I remember I told him that I tried as hard as I could to save him.
I feel like I see 3 figures, but they're light, maybe shadows.
I really wanted to float and fly away somewhere, whether it was going through a door, whether I was just already there. I really wanted to go a different place other than my body.
Austin, my friend. First impression. Pat, welcome back. Melissa, what do you think? Brandon, welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Chris.
It's good to be back, Jay.
Chris has always got to bust my balls. It's good to be back, Jay. God, I love that fucker.
What about Brandon?
Brandon, you know, me and Brandon have texted. Now, we haven't texted recently, but we texted over the years with the experiments that he was also doing when they were with haunted towns and what he was trying to get going and all of that. And I love the way Brandon's mind thinks when it comes to these experiments. We were at an event one time and I went to go get him. I was sent to go get him because we're supposed to get up on the stage and we're supposed to be talking to people. He shows me this experiment. An hour later, we're still standing there talking about the experiment. So, I don't remember who it was come found us is like, what the hell were y'all doing? And we're like, oh, shit. Yeah, that's right. Brandon, we got to go. And they're like, well, that was an hour ago, dude. You're freaking late. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm sorry.
Oops.
So, yeah, Brandon, in episode 3, he was in experiment 1, so you'll get to see what he experienced or what he didn't experience, which was interesting because he had such a vested interest in what was going to happen. So, yeah, such a nice dude. The guy is so dry.
Well,
he and Chris are like polar opposites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Brandon has Asperger's, so like there's like a lot of with his mind, he loves to see how everything operates and everything, but also he's got a racing mind, a lot like I do with ADD,
So I tutored a kid that had Asperger's years ago, and there are a lot of similarities that I see, and I understand that. But I love Brandon, though. I love the way he carries himself and the way that he talks, and he's truthful about everything.
I love
the way he investigates.
Yeah, he's too smart for himself.
That he comes up with when he investigates. It's amazing.
I have an adult daughter that has Asperger's. And so if you'll notice I think it's episode 1, when I'm in my workshop and I do the preliminary, because at that point, I really thought I was going to get 6 experiments and this, that, and the other. So I filmed that before we ever went to Ohio. And I said that there was 2 participants that might not travel. And I don't say in the video which one it was, but I could say it now that episode 1 is aired and episode 2 is aired. My 2 participants that I did not think they were going to be my challenge children was Austin and Brandon. I knew that I was going to have a hard time getting them to travel. I have not given up on that by no means. They are now just a challenge. Right. But I knew going into this that it might be difficult to get them to that relaxed enough state that they could travel. And Austin, if you want to say something there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like I was saying, it was hard for me. I don't know how much I should give away because, like, I know that my interview is in this next episode here. But I know that to be able to do this, you have to be able to literally, it's like meditation. You have to be able to completely clear your mind and immerse yourself in the frequencies that are being played through the soundproof headphones. And I mean, for some people, that's really easy. For me, it's not. My mind's racing 100% of the day from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. And so, and Brandon is very much the same way. And so I think that I don't know, I think the time of day made it really difficult too, because my experiment was at 2:00 or something in the afternoon. It was really kind of crazy. So there was no way I was in any condition to be able to do that. But I will say though too that when it comes to the hyper realm, I didn't get a chance to do the hyper realm. Now the hyper realm, I think, is a lot easier, and we'll get to that in later episodes. But I do know that the WorldGate, I think, requires more I don't want to say experienced, but like, people that have traveled before, so to speak, whether they were on their own, like Amy specifically, she's able to travel in your dreams, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I go to bed, like I also have ADD. So, and I think that's why I can't settle myself down and, actually try and do it. And that's why I think I do it in more in my sleep. But I think as far as that goes, I think there's more people out there that do it that don't realize that they're doing it.
Yeah. And and that's really like the big thing. But and I mean, maybe I just gave a spoiler or something.
No, you didn't. So with me, I've tried to meditate over the years. I've really tried. I used to be really big. It's hard because when I try to do it, I would end up falling asleep. I used to be really big on, and I still am. I've just kind of abandoned it over the last several years on the power of the mind and how strong the mind is, because I used to have a client where I'd go out to Vegas and I would film as a corporate client. They'd be having like breakout sessions. They have speakers come out there, and a couple of them they just talk about the power of your mind. And I was filming it, so I got to witness everything. And I saw a guy, and I was up on stage with him filming it. He levitated like a little side table. The table wasn't heavy at all. It's probably maybe 10, 15 pounds, but he sat there for like a minute and a half, concentrated on it, and like lifted it up like just a few inches off the ground. And it was so crazy to see that.
Was that Chris Angel?
It wasn't Chris Angel. It was somebody else. Yeah, I remember Chris Angel. I used to love
that. Was a good show back in the day, man. I loved that show.
Oh, I love Chris Angel, man. He was awesome. When he walked on water in Vegas, I still don't know how he did that. But anyway, so then when I saw that guy recommended a couple of books and a couple of like the power of your subconscious books, and I went back and I read them cover to cover and just really tried to implement them in my life. I think at the time I was like turning 30, and I'd already done video production, but I was nowhere near where I wanted to be, and I'm still not near where I want to be, even though I've done a lot of stuff. I'm still not happy with where I am and what I produce, but it really but that really helped me to take my mind to a place to really kind of see where I wanted to go and what I wanted to accomplish. And when I really set my mind to it, I was seeing things happen that I didn't think could happen. And to me, that just kind of shows the power of your mind. So I guess my point is to go back to what Austin was saying. I don't know if I would have been able to do the experiment either if I would have participated in it. I think I probably would have just fallen asleep and just maybe dreamed.
Others did fall asleep though.
A few people did.
What happens if somebody is in that sleep state? But like I said last time, if I get you to those frequencies where you're just going into sleep, even if you slip into sleep, but we keep you in those frequencies, you're still liable to experience something in those states because you're not going to slip into deep sleep. So whatever you're experiencing, we don't know if it's real. We don't know how to compare it with the reality of what we live in. But for you at that moment, it was real. It was an experience. So I still see that as a success. Now, manifestation, like you're talking about, Billy, that is really a big part of what we're doing with these frequencies. I'm trying to get these 5 participants that are on the outside to manifest what's going to happen with that 6th participant on the inside. So manifestation is definitely a huge part of it, because the human mind, the human consciousness is capable of so much more. So if I can get them to that point, hold them at that point, they experience something, but also their consciousness, because our mind can do multiple things at one time. If they can help manifest what we're talking about with the WorldGate, fuck, we're doing some great shit right there now. I mean, that's really opening the human mind and using it to its fullest capabilities, because we got it into a frequency state where you're not feeling any restraints from what we normally experience in the waking world. When I'm driving down the road, I know that I've got to control it. I got to keep 10 and 2, and I got to hit the brake and use my turn signal. But when we're in that state, there's no holes, there's no bars, there's no walls, there's a door, but the door is more of a metaphor that I use in order to get them to concentrate this manifestation to a singularity. Are you with me? And once you concentrate all that to that singularity, oh my God, what can the mind do, and what can 6 minds do when they concentrate on one thing and nothing's telling them, I can't do that, because they're not feeling they can't do it.
So I got a question that may blow your mind, Jay. Not blow, it ain't gonna blow your mind, but so you're talking about the door, and now I know you didn't ask any of the participants what their intention was, where they wanted to go, but I know you did share with them about getting to a door and opening a door. I think you did beforehand.
Yep.
Do you think that played into these participants' subconscious mind, where they were searching for that door? And if you would have never said anything about reaching a door, you may not have ever heard anything about getting to a door. Does that make sense?
Even in the audio, there's audio instructions.
Yeah, that's right. That's
subliminal.
Right. About the door. Yeah.
I want the audience to know none of this is subliminal, guys. There's instructions that I give them beforehand and we talk about, and then there's verbal instructions in the audio. None of it is subliminal. I'm not saying I would never go to subliminal, but if I did, I would let my participants know that I went there. As of right now, I don't have anything subliminal. That door is a focal point to concentrate their energies. If I can get them to those right frequencies, that door is more of a metaphor of being able to break that plane, whether it's the hyper realm and we're trying to break the plane right into next door and see what the hell Casper's doing, because everybody keeps saying he's running through the hallways with chains. Well, we're going to go next door and see what he's doing. If we do the peregrine, we're going to let them travel as far as they want. I can't give anything away with Steve or whatever, but some of them travel what seem to be great, and I hate to use the word distance, but with human beings, we got to use certain words. So we're going to say distance. Some of them may travel what seem like great distances, and that's the peregrine. There's no holes. But on the hyper realm, we just want to kick the door into the nearest realm. I think I mentioned it before about what I did with Nick and Tessa Groff. That was one of my first hyper realms, and it was very successful. It's just going right over the veil of whatever is the closest door to get through into that veil on the hyper realm. So the door is more of a metaphor. It's just a pathway to get through what's holding us back. Whatever it is in our human mind that holds us back from this great thing that we actually are as a pure energy. I just use that door as a metaphor So if once you kick that door open, you don't feel held back anymore, and you could go, you could travel, you could see and experience all those possible things that are out there, amazing things.
It's strange when you talk about that, and then Billy talks about, meditating and all that. I mean, when you're doing these experiments, you are in a way a meditative state. Now, depending when I meditate, depends on what my intentions are, why I need to meditate. But a lot of times dictate where I go. Am I going to stay home? I have a special place, this little trail wooded area that's near my house. There's been a lot of times I'll go out there because I need a space that's not in my house for what I'm intending to do. So I already have set a lot of times in my head, but when I do meditate, I don't know what's going to end up happening when I meditate. I don't know if I could have fallen asleep, but sometimes I get in so deep. Now when I think back, Jay, like doing these experiments, that's basically what you are. You're listening to things and you're going into that meditative state. And then you never know what you're going to end up. And I think about that now when I do meditate, especially when I'm in this trail, this wooded area that I go to. I think I experience things and do things a little bit differently just because of what I've experienced with these this project and these experiments.
Well, and that's true. A lot of people can spend years learning to meditate. Other people have never meditated before. And I welcome all of them into the Institute when we do these experiments. And if the math works out correctly, and they're where they're supposed to be by the math, and I'm not too far off, I can overcome. I don't like the word shortcut. I've used it before because once again we have to use words that human beings understand. It is kind of a shortcut. I am kind of taking a shortcut. I know 6 days doesn't sound like a shortcut because who goes to a paranormal location for 6 days? So it doesn't sound like a shortcut. But if I do this and you're able to travel for 10 or 15 minutes and you'd never traveled before, you'd never meditated before, that really is a shortcut. I mean, let's face it. Some people spend decades, like Billy was saying, learning to meditate. What if for some people, not everybody, but some people, I could give a shortcut just to get them there, but we're doing it in a supposedly purported haunted location. So now we're just adding fuel to the flames at that point, for those that have enough courage to go do it, because we're not just meditating in your bedroom. We're meditating in a purported location, and you're going to release all of that control, and you're just going to see what's out there. That takes a lot of guts. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I think we're a couple minutes away.
Yeah, I give kudos to all the participants who actually took part in the experiments, in this series and stuff, to put themselves out there. I mean, we discussed a little bit in episode 1 the potential dangers, which thank goodness none of those came to fruition. Even with what happened with Mike, I don't even think that was danger. I don't know what happened. There's some more correlation with what happened with him in episode 3, which is very bizarre.
Yes.
But,
there were so many connections.
Yeah. And in episode 3, during the round table, a lot of those connections started coming together, which I didn't even realize. I said this earlier, but I didn't even realize at the time of those connections, in real time while we were there. So,
and that's what they're about to view here in just a couple of minutes is what happened and the round table and seeing those connections. and where these puzzle pieces start coming together after 2 episodes. This episode really starts showing you those puzzle pieces, and as we move forward, more of those puzzle pieces start coming into play.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it just really, yeah, it's out now. So hoping everyone will
I think
go
this
and
would
watch.
be one thing that would be really cool is after like all the episodes are out, getting all of us together again and do like another roundtable. Because by then we've all seen like everybody's exit interviews and see everything from the beginning, and then just kind of like.
Oh, I would love to do that, Amy.
I think that would be like
After
really
all of
cool
you,
to do that.
yes, because it's been hard to share all the exit interviews with all the participants because I've been still trying to put data together. Billy's been working with, all of the footage. So the participants, for our viewers watching right now, for the participants, they're just now seeing these exit interviews. I want to reiterate, these participants have not seen the exit interviews of the other participants. They're watching it in real time with you, and they're now starting to put more puzzle pieces together, I'm sure. So, Amy, I would love to do another roundtable with all of you guys after this, at the end of this, once y'all have seen everyone else's exit interviews. I would love to do that. Yes.
Oh yeah, I would love to, because I've got already all kinds of thoughts and things I'm piecing together, even from 3 that I'm just blown away from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, then we're going to do it. We're going to put it together.
Okay.
We're going to have one last roundtable before we go do it again in May, and then we'll have a bunch more roundtables after May.
Okay.
Yeah. Once everything is released and finalized, we'll definitely try to jump on, maybe multiple live stream calls and just try to decipher.
Yeah, and I want to record it all for the Institute because the Institute really needs this. I mean, I love sharing this with the public, and I hope they're enjoying watching what Billy is doing here and how he's doing what his editing is amazing. And I'm hoping
kudos to you, Billy. It's really great. I've enjoyed watching how you've, been able to piece this, put it all together and how you tell the story of what happened. It's been really fun to watch.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's always a challenge with something like this because I know I've said this before, but it's not like this is a narrative movie or a scripted TV series where you're following the script and you know exactly what the shot's going to be. Even though that shot may be from different angles, you're still cutting that scene together. With this, it's just like a big old, I equate it to like, baking a cake where you just throw all the ingredients in there and you just try your best to try to make it make sense and come out, cooked in a cohesive way that makes sense for the viewer, obviously, with what you're trying to convey and portray with whatever that specific project may be. So
yeah, and
Billy.
And also to the viewers, need to know that all of this is none of it's fake. Like
this
is all real. This is all like
this is all beyond real. Like me, JW, and Austin almost got in a wrestling match, and I'm not even including any of that in the series because we didn't film any of it.
I thought I was hoping that JW's camera at least captured some of that.
Well,
I thought it would have been good to put
he didn't have the
there.
audio on his camera. Just next to nothing. So
the audio on the camera
got it on every other.
Audio.
Got it on every other time, JW.
Anyways, I was saying that this showed that this was superbly real.
Yeah.
Superbly, nothing has been remotely.
See, here's the thing.
There was a couple of those scenes there.
Stanford University, probably MIT, definitely the Monroe Institute, the CIA. there are so many organizations out there that do similar type of research that I'm doing, but they do it in these controlled environment and laboratories, and they never release it to the public. You might get a white page on it or some white pages on it 10 or 15 years after the fact. No, we went out, we did it, we said we were going to do it, we did it, we filmed it, and we're showing it to you what happened in these locations, not in a controlled laboratory. Like I say, we do, like Amy said, we do have some controls, but we're not doing it in a sterile lab. We're doing it in these purported locations. So it is a bit of a fine walk between the research and bringing it to the public to where they can understand what happened. And Billy's doing a superb job of that. But this was my intention with the Institute, was to take it out of the hands of Stanford and MIT and CIA. And we're going to go do it our own damn way. And we're going to film it and we're going to show it to everybody. And then the viewer can watch it and make up their own mind of what they think happened. But I guarantee you, what we say happened was real for us.
Yeah, 100%.
That's all I got to say about that.
I'm curious, are there viewers on here still?
Yeah, there's.
Why are y'all not watching the episode right now? Just out of curiosity.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, to be able to include all of your data and all of your research and all of that into this, I mean, these things would be these episodes would be 10 hours an episode, and
oh my god,
you'd have a lot of people probably tuning out. So
yeah, you got to figure, what did we have there? 1,000 hours of video and everything.
Well, combined with yours,
how many terabytes? What was it, like 4 terabytes, 5 terabytes of video data?
Well,
I think hold on, let me tell you.
Well, what was yours, JW? You had for yourself, right?
I got 4 terabytes. I never even turned over to him because that's just for my.
Oh my god. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I have, and that's, well, it does include. You've cut down some of your segments on stuff you sent to me. It's just 3 terabytes. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I got another 4 over here. That because I reduced what I was sending to him, and that doesn't include separate audio tracks, which is about another terabyte. So yeah, we're close to 8 terabytes.
Wow.
Of data that we collected. Now, not all of that is good for customers' consumption, consumer consumption. A lot of that is data for me for the Institute. And as you can tell, I'm not your normal guy in a white lab coat. I'm a little unconventional, but when I conduct my research, I am very dead serious about my research and my protocols. So don't let the hat fool you. Just because I ain't wearing a lab coat doesn't mean that I didn't put my best foot forward on collecting this in such a way that it was not going to be contaminated to the best of my ability in a haunted location. I mean, it wasn't in a laboratory.
Yeah, no, I think you did a good job with that. There's a lot of variables involved with something like this, as you know, and obstacles too, which you talk about in the first episode of things always trying to deter you from doing this.
It happens every time.
Yeah. Well, I think you throw in the haunted location, that adds a whole nother element, which I thought was cool to
Well, that's what I want. That's where I wanted to do it. I didn't, because I've had other people go, JW, why don't you just rent a building and bring everybody to you? And I'm like, no, there's already people out there conducting those kinds of experiments. And they're far smarter than me, by the way. There's scientists out there already doing that in controlled laboratories and buildings. I want to take my dumb ass out in the field, and what is it I said? Fuck around and find out. And that's what we do. And I say that with a joke. I mean, I do take this all seriously. So I want the viewers to know I do take safety seriously. When I do,
I'm the one that has to fuck around and find out. I do that for JW. I just report back to him.
Yeah. I'm not like I was back in my 20s. I'm a little more reserved now. But yeah, I say it as a chuckle, but we were dead serious while we were there during those experiments and the setup of those experiments. We had a lot of downtime and a lot of great time too. Don't get me wrong. But we were in a off environment other than just a white lab.
Pat sent me a message and he said he really enjoyed episode 3. Pat was, one of the participants and the PAs and stuff. And he did a great job and was such a super help that whole week, not just with the experiments, but setting up and
yes,
equipment and everything else. And I felt like Pat wore his heart on his sleeve that week too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he
had a crazy experience with his cat too. So
yeah, he had some emotional things happen.
Yeah.
Everybody there that week had something that emotional. Now we can't talk about Kayla yet because that's coming. But yes, his was very emotional for him, and I respected the fact that he was able to share that with us. I love the fact that he was willing to share that with us.
Yeah, I was surprised that he shared as much as he did, to be honest with you. So, I mean, kudos to him for doing that.
Yeah.
So they should be off of here by now, and they should be watching episode 3. And if you're not, why aren't you?
Well, because we're still on here, I think, and we still have more to say.
Yeah.
What do you got to say?
I think maybe I don't have anything else to say. I'm ready to go.
No.
I was just
all I know is that I'm really enjoying this, and I can't wait for the next experiments to come up because I want to do every single one of them, and I would love to see how it progresses, and I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
I'm already getting ready for May.
I can't wait.
Yep. We are already on it.
Good.
So in episode 3 too, a little preview, which you saw some in the teaser, we actually incorporate a little bit of paranormal investigation in there too, which I think is cool. Don't want to give too much away, but some of the evidence from those investigations helped back up some of the experiments, which I think was what Jed intended by allowing that to happen too. So I thought that was a neat different aspect, to that. But you can't bring that many investigators together and I think not do a paranormal investigation.
Exactly. Now
that's the only thing that I regret not doing afterwards. But I was so tired, there was going to be no way I was going to be able to do those and be ready for the next day.
You did it, which will be in episode 5. You were part of the
second, a little bit, but
second group of investigators.
Yeah.
There's some stuff. Yeah, I don't want to get down. I'm like jumping ahead 2 episodes now.
Yeah. Now in May, I'm going to be doing some experiments in conjunction with the investigations. On this one, what I did on this one was I let, kind of like the Peregrine experience where I just let them free roam. I did the same thing with the investigations on this one. I did not micromanage the investigations on this one. once we finished for the experiments for the day, whoever got together and formed whatever, they went and did those investigations however they seen fit. And I did not weigh in on it. I didn't put my thumb on it. I know everybody thinks I'm, always putting my thumb on everything, and JW's got to control everything. I didn't on these investigations. I let them go. And what they got is what they got. And there was some very interesting stuff that happened. And I believe that I know for a fact, a lot of it ties in with the experiments. But I believe that the reason they got so much was because the experiments was like a catalyst for what was going to happen during those investigations. So at that time, I did not step in. I just let it unfold the way it unfolded. And that's what the viewer will see is untethered investigations. And this is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there, to say the least. And with me, as far as being a filmmaker and doing so many paranormal documentaries at this point, I say this about every location that I go to. We try to get the history of the location, and then we do the investigations and hope that they kind of back up the history, and you get some similar names and similar things of what happened at the actual location. And that always gratifies me to be able for that to happen. So I think with these investigations and stuff, for there to be some correlation, some direct correlation to what we were doing, I think adds a lot to the series and adds a lot of validation to what you were doing, Jay, and the overall goal.
Yeah.
Yes, and I appreciate everybody that was there and putting in, like Amy was saying, we put in some long days, and that was one of our fights, Billy, was these long ass days. And I'm like, I really don't want to push anybody into these long days. This is what we're offering. We've got this thing 24/7, which is what we're going to do in May. We're going to have it 24/7. They're going to be able to stay right on site in the funeral home. But I don't want to force anybody to work longer than they have to. But we did have some long ass time.
Well, my thinking with that too is, obviously when you go and shoot things like this and other paranormal documentaries that I do, you're going to have long days. That just comes with the territory, and late nights and into the mornings. But I feel like when you get tired and you become really vulnerable, and so my concerns were people getting vulnerable and sleepy and
and that's why I try to get the experiments to where they've got time off, to where they can go and rest, and they can find a place to recharge, to where now
you have to do that. Not you. You're a robot, but everybody else is not.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, when I wake up at 5 a.m., I might go again till 10 midnight, whatever. But I go at my own pace, and I don't try to be a driver and force other people to do the same thing I'm doing. But it is hard when you've only got this many days, and this is what the schedule's calling for. And you're trying to tell everybody, look, take your downtime and go rest, go recharge. And now it's up to them as adults if they decide to do that or not.
Yeah, I get it, man, because it's like sometimes, with, again, a lot of the paranormal docs and true crime docs and stuff that I've shot, it's like I know I'm only going to be there for 2 days, and it's like I want to work. Let's say I'm going to be there for 2 days, it's like, man, 48 hours. Now I want to work 40 hours because I know I've only got this amount of time to be there and to shoot this and to film this and to get these interviews and to get this investigation. So, you know, you have to prepare yourself mentally going into something like this to know that there's going to be a little bit of lack of sleep. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a mixed bag, because you got to have that clarity to be able to think clearly and to do things properly, you know?
Yeah, and that's why too, like, I didn't want to stay and investigate, because I was afraid that if I didn't get enough sleep and then going into the experiment, you know, being in that hot, well, I probably should say but being where I'm at, I did not want to be able to get into a situation that I couldn't control, or letting something, you know, take over, or, you know, I didn't want my experiment altered in any way. So that's why I wanted to make sure I got plenty of sleep for that experiment. Yeah, you know, being there to investigate afterwards would have been great, but, you know, for me, I knew I needed to get home and get some sleep.
Well, the good thing about those quick paranormal investigations that we did, because we only did 2 nights and 2 separate things, and they weren't very long. Maybe 30 minutes to an hour for each one of them. But within that 30 minutes to an hour for each one of those, there was a lot that came in and a lot of evidence.
They didn't need a 4-hour investigation.
No.
They were getting 8 hours worth of what you would get on a regular investigation. They were getting it in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that I found. I'm glad that I didn't micromanage any of that, because I didn't want to, because I didn't really plan for the investigation. So the last thing I wanted to do was step in and mess with it. I'm glad that I didn't and let it unfold the way it did, because as the viewer sees, there was a lot of interesting stuff that came in just bam, 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 back to back. This wasn't a couple of hours of nothing and then 20 minutes. This was like 30, 45 minutes of just solid investigation, great stuff. And then they were like, okay, we've got what we can get. And when it kind of went quiet, they were like, well, shit, then let's go home and go to bed, because, man, we just got a whole bunch that quick.
Yeah. So, yeah, you'll see all that in episode 3, along with the first full experiment, the exit interviews, and the round table. There's a lot in episode 3. It's well over an hour. So
it's a long one.
Yeah, if you're interested and want to continue to follow along, please head over to ScareNetwork and check it out and watch it. And there is, you know, obviously we're saying this because we produced it, but there's a lot to decipher in episode 3. There's a lot there, and a lot of good correlation and a lot of validation too, I feel like.
Yeah. As this goes along, you're going to get more and more puzzle pieces, kind of like we did the week we were there. I really, and Billy, thank God you're working with me, because I really did want to share it with the viewer, kind of how it transpired over that week and how it just built over that week.
The viewers really need to stay tuned, because it's going to get good. You know?
Yeah.
It's really was a great week, and as the week went on, we were all like, holy crap, like,
yeah,
it's just amazing.
Yeah. So any final thoughts from anyone? Thank you guys for taking your Friday night and spending it with us and talking, jabbing with us a little bit. Y'all have any final thoughts on anything?
Go watch it on ScareNetwork.
Yeah, keep watching it. It's going to get better.
It'll get real good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate the support. We appreciate the interest, and we'll try to go live again next week and talk about, you know, the next episode that comes out. But yeah, just curious to hear everyone's thoughts on.
That's what we'll try to do is just recap the previous episodes and kind of bring you up to where we're at on the next episode. And I sure do enjoy doing this. So thank you for having us on, Billy. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Billy.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll end this stream, and yeah, everybody have a good weekend and go watch Travelers, the WorldGate Experiment.
Have a great weekend, guys.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.